Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Thank you for hearing me again today. We discussed this bill last week. This is House Bill 20, which prohibits the production, manufacture, and distribution of hallucinogenic plants. We're very, well versed in the problem, the abuse of these particular plants. Last week there was some concern about the naturopathic practitioners, and they were afraid that unamended this bill would not allow for FDA-approved natural products that are sold at retail. We do have an amendment, and if we could take that amendment up and discuss it as amended, please.
Sure. That amendment is being distributed. My understanding is that we adopted an amendment last week,
That's correct.
and that that amendment, what we need to do is to take that amendment off.
Right, that was a technical amendment.
And it was a technical amendment. So I'm going to move that we reconsider the vote by which that amendment was adopted. Is there any objection to that? There being no objection, that amendment that vote will be reconsidered. I'm going to withdraw that amendment and resubmit it in the form that has just been passed out, and I'm going to ask Mr. Riley to explain what the amendment does.
The amendment that the chairman just withdrew is contained in amendment number 1. It is, as the author described, a technical amendment. We had a plant listed in there twice, and it removes that plant and puts this in, which was the last one in the original bill. Then the substantive amendments, amendments number 2 and 3, deal with the homeopathic drug. The definition is any drug labeled as being homeopathic, which is listed in the Homeopathic Pharmacopoeia of the United States and addendum to or its supplements. The potency of homeopathic drugs are specified in terms of dilution. Homeopathic drug products must contain diluents commonly used in homeopathic pharmaceutics. Drug products containing homeopathic ingredients in combination with non-homeopathic active ingredients are not homeopathic drug products. Then on page 4, line 8, which would add a subsection E, it creates the exception to the crime. And it says that the provisions of this section shall not apply to any dosage form which is legally obtainable from a retail establishment without a prescription and is recognized by the Federal Food and Drug Administration as a homeopathic drug.
Are there any questions on that amendment? Mr. DeWitt.
Does that mean all these little drugs that people buy, I'm not to call them drugs, but the Food Administration doesn't do any of these things like I saw like ginger, whatever you buy. I just see them on the rack, and people buy them as they take them because they're supposed to make them feel better or whatever.
That's correct.
But
Those
I mean,
will still be okay
those will still be okay
with this amendment. Most of those do not contain any part of these products. Those are more like your St. John's wort and your barley greens and a number of other things. We put that in there just to be sure that we did not, anything that was FDA approved in a commercially prepared form in a retail store would not be affected.
But I don't think the FDA approves any of that stuff.
What about the aesthetics?
Actually, they do.
They do?
Yes, sir.
Because I read on some of them there where it's not approved by them. They don't go through all that deal, and then I thought I read that, but maybe I didn't.
Some of them are not if they are, quote, a food additive. The purpose of this legislation is to remove from the market these hallucinogenic plants. The problem with these plants is, in addition to being hallucinogenic, they can also be highly fatal. The majority of these plants have the same chemical compounds. Most of them are alkaloids. Atropine is the main component. Atropine, scopolamine, hyoscine. Some of them also have psilocybin, lysergic acid, monoethylamine, LSM, and similar products. When taken, they are hallucinogenic and again can be highly toxic, resulting in coma and death. And we're trying to clean that up and still allow the practitioners of homeopathic medicine to use what is FDA approved for that purpose. That is our intent.
Where do you live? Where's your district? I don't want to let my people even drive through there. I'm sure this is a problem in your area like that. I don't hear about all that up home. Maybe they're all doing it. I just don't know about it, but it's not a bad enough problem. But
it's just hard to say those words with your accent, Mr.
Well,
DeWitt.
I know, but we did little old plants the other day that people own? Hell, that hit my nursery folks. They sell them all the time. The little old ladies and stuff. I guess they want to, and little old young girls too, and men. I guess everybody wants to be wound up and going. But hell, I hadn't just really been, just running into that as much as that we're making it by law that you can't do. I mean,
There's the.
And it looks like if y'all got that much of a problem, we need to fence y'all off for a while.
I can, as an.
Or don't let those horsemen know about it. They don't tell them where them damn horses be running. I'll liable to have a track up Melick.
We have specific provisions in this bill, and I quote, these provisions shall not apply to possessing, planting, cultivation, growing, or harvesting strictly for aesthetic, landscaping, or decorative purposes. What this bill says is you cannot process it, manufacture it, and distribute it for human consumption. The problem is that when they're processing these things, and again, they're highly hallucinogenic, and it's not illegal. People are getting sick and ill and dying, and I will read to you just briefly. On June 4th in Destrehan, 3 boys, ages 15 and 16, drank a concoction of angel's trumpet boiled in an unknown liquid. All 3 boys suffered severe hallucination. 2 were hospitalized. The father of one of the teens was so angry that he shot and wounded the man he thought gave the boys a drink. A week earlier in Kenner, 3 youths mixed angel's trumpet and Kool-Aid. Police said one of them tried to jump from a roof and the other tried to chew off his arm. He thought it was a po' boy. Hialeah, Florida, a teenager died May 26, 106-degree fever from drinking soup made from the plant. And we have on and other. These are a problem.
Well, you finished, Charlie?
Yeah, I know that kid didn't get that one problem that night.
No, sir.
There was problems leading up to this that maybe that parent ought to be brought in and spanked a little bit.
Yes, sir, I agree.
It's a war to throw them in this deal, too. I mean, I was just wondering that.
My concern, Mike, well, first off, is there any objection to the amendment? The amendment is adopted. My only concern, though, is it seems that the way we've got it now set up, and I believe we don't have that part about culinary purposes in there anymore,
No, it's true.
that I can grow all of this stuff
Yes, sir, you can.
with the intent of selling it, as long as you don't know that's my intent. And it's not actually going to be a crime until some overt act happens. Either somebody takes it, or you catch me selling it to somebody, or I'm processing.
That's correct.
What do you mean by processing?
Processing would be harvesting the leaves, cooking it down, putting it into a powder in some form.
But what if I want to dig it up and say and sell it to my friend Charlie DeWitt to take back to LeCompte? I can't do that?
Yes, sir, you can.
And Charlie, when he gets it, says, I'm going to plant it so I can be aesthetically beautiful back where I live.
Yes, sir, you can.
Okay.
Many of these plants are commonly found and are used as ornamentals. The problem comes in is that when they are processed and distributed, and these young people are taking them with severe consequences. And as it is, it's not illegal. The problem is that these compounds have the hallucinogenic compounds in them, and there's no law to stop someone from setting up a shop and serving teas made out of any of these things.
Right. So that's
what we're trying to cure.
It's okay to possess them. It's okay to grow them if you're saying they're for aesthetic purposes. But once you do something to
right.
Turn it into some type of hallucinogenic.
You can grow oleanders all you want, every day.
Okay.
Right? You make a tea out of this. There's no hallucination. There's only death. Right? But you can possess it at any point. Most ornamentals have some toxic properties.
Okay.
In this case, they're being utilized for the hallucinogenic effect with the hope that they don't use enough to find the fatal effect.
That's fine. Thank you. God darn it, I shouldn't have asked that question.
I'm sorry.
I lit up. You went back on, Mr. DeWitt?
I don't know if you got that mushroom here in the United States. You said in Mexico. I don't know how we're going to go down there and get them, but I can remember whenever we used to cut a hay field and whatever was right, all them little mushrooms come out there. They'd gather them up like it was dewberries out there. But I mean, problem of it was, but is that on here too, those mushrooms? I'm going to put all of it in there if we don't do it. I see it's just mushrooms commonly found in Mexico. I don't know how we got them.
The psilocybal mushrooms that were utilized for hallucinogenic effects grow in a very small, remote area of Mexico.
And then somehow or another, we got to punish nature for making them some guns grow.
But the problem is, Charlie, is that with the proper technology, you can now grow them in the United States. When you take some of the other products, talk about henbane and mandrake, used for centuries, those can be cultivated now in the United States. Some of these products are members of the pea family. They call them colorines, and they have different colors of these peas, grown in different regions in Central and South America and Mexico. They can be cultivated here. And the drug, instead of selling ecstasy, well, you say, look, I just got 3 colorines here. They're just peas. And depending on how you mix them as to what type of effect that they have. We're just trying to stay one step ahead of the drug culture and the utilization of these hallucinogens.
Thank you. Representative White.
Representative Strain, do you know if any other states are they passing similar legislation?
Yes, they are, and what you're seeing is that a number of parishes are passing similar legislation. I think it's being done in Orleans, Jefferson, and other parishes to try to deal with the problem. We tried to craft legislation that would not affect our nursery people, that would not prohibit the possession of these plants that are widespread. Simply, we're trying to curb the processing and distribution of the drug.
Okay, thank you.
Representative Burrell.
Dr. Strain, you are saying that these plants by themselves are not necessarily, well, they are hallucinogenic, but you don't get that effect unless they are actually processed?
No.
So-
If you take them directly, some of these, if you take the plant directly, and what would happen is if an illegal crime would be if you took angel's trumpet, right, and you either put it in a tea or you chewed on or you gave it to people to consume that. Where it becomes, I guess, in the end
But when
stage,
you
a
put it
crime
into
is for
tea, you are
human
mixing it with
consumption.
something else.
You are processing that.
Yeah.
Some of these, there's one particular product, it's called Kwashi, K-W-A-S-H-I. The way it is utilized, they take the bulb and they make a cut, a nick, and they put the bulb on the nick directly, and it's absorbed through the skin, and it's highly toxic. So there are different mechanisms. We chose these plants based on their abuse, based on the fact that they're hallucinogenic, and in the majority of cases, basis that they're highly toxic. And we took these. Most of these plants have, vernacular, have different names for what they're called in their native cultures. But the problem is that we're in the information super age, right? And we're trying to stay one step ahead of the abuse problem. And some of these, again, are just tremendously toxic, and that's the ill we're trying to cure.
Are any of these plants used for medicinal purposes?
There's some they talk about are used by, I guess, in tribal medicine for different reasons, okay? Some of them are. And that's why what we put in that if it's in the U.S. pharmacopoeia, okay, it's an FDA-approved, commercially prepared product, that's allowable. But remember, in some of these cultures where they're using these particular type of plants, okay, they're using them in low dosages. But in higher dosage, again, you get the hallucinations and you get the toxic effects. They're not commonly used. They're not used by our physicians, okay?
Yeah, but you have herbalists that use different plants for different illnesses.
That's correct.
And that type of thing. And if you're taking these off the market and assuming that they are automatically bad plants because there's a possibility for processing that will create that end result, then we are, it appears that we are taking plants away from herbalists who are now being recognized as persons who are coming up with some concoctions, for those that use them for a very legitimate mean.
We looked very carefully at all these plants to see if they were used in the United States by any of our herbalist medical people. I found one, but it's not from this country, and it's used as to remove parasites. It's used as an aphrodisiac, but it is extremely toxic. The compound is harmine, and it is used in folk medicine in the Mediterranean states. Okay, and that's one of them. I have notes, I think, that I had printed yesterday that goes through each plant individually. If there's once you look at that, if there's a particular plant you want to talk about between now and the floor, I'd be glad to talk to you about it. Okay, we don't want to create a loophole to where they can take these plants and their raw products and process them and say they're doing it for medicinal purposes. Again, you got to remember, these plants are all hallucinogenic, and the majority are highly toxic. That's the ill we're trying to cure. And if you want to look at these, I'll be glad to meet with you and talk to you, and we can look at any of these in particular if you have a problem with any particular plant.
Thank you. Representative Smith.
Just real quickly, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I don't want you to have to repeat your testimony because this is my first day, but I'm interested in the logistics of what happens and what happened to the two young men. Was there an arrest in the case, and was there anything else found in the bloodstream beside whatever plant you named?
I can't say that there was an arrest. I know that it was not illegal. In these particular cases, the one young man that tried to chew his arm off, okay?
I would have thought he probably was on something else beside a plant.
He was on Angel's Trumpet,
Okay.
okay? And again, these cause hallucinations, okay?
Well, that's the purpose of the bill, though, is to make it, to make
Stop
it...
this.
To stop it.
Yeah.
To stop the problem, and that's the main problem. You know, why peddle ecstasy when you can sell morning glories, right? Why sell LSD when it's legal to push LSM? And all they have to do is, you know, and it's very easy. You can get off the internet how to cook this stuff.
So right now, the situation we're in, if law enforcement found this to be true, that someone was processing this and selling it, there's nothing they can do.
That's correct. That's correct. I would think until it reaches the point of death, right? And then you would have, I guess that's a different matter. If you're looking at negligent homicide or contributing to that. But if it's a voluntary action by the person taking it, they know what they're taking. I'm not an attorney, but I can tell you they can have a ton of Angel's Trumpet ground up and all these different things, and you can't do them anything.
I got to tell you, this is just the first I've heard of this. It's just maybe that it's just not been a case in our area, but obviously it's becoming a problem.
It's coming. It's coming.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, the board is clear. I'm going to move that we report the bill favorably as amended. Is there any objection? There being no objection, that bill will be reported favorably as amended.
Mr. Chairman, members, thank you for your time and your consideration. If anyone wants to talk about this between now and the floor, please grab me.
Fine. Representative Farrer, House Bill 16.